Hi, my name is Karan Hundal. I'm 31 years old, and this is my casting video for the two questions I've been asked. So one is, can you describe to me what do you think the future will be? And the second question is, how will we be living in the future? So I'll answer these two questions in one go because it's kind of related. So one lump sum answer. So it's really interesting. So thank you so much for the questions. Really interesting to have these questions because we've all been thinking about the future. I've been thinking about the future as well. So I think it's really easy to say cliches like flying cars and food pills and all of this kind of stuff in the future. But I think the future will be very similar to how we are living today. Just that technology will be smarter, smaller, and cheaper, and I think we'll be more efficient. Hopefully. So let's look at the future from a few aspects. So let's talk about the future of food, right? For example, so I think we'll be doing a lot more vertical farming instead of horizontal land. As land gets more expensive, more costly, and space gets more limited, we'll be producing vertical food in a vertical format. So vertical agriculture in AI control devices or spaces. I think that would be the key thing, and I think we'll be less reliant on processed foods and more reliant on veggie or plants-based foods. And we might even have in vitro cloning of meat, in vitro clone meat. So I think for that, because we might be expecting a population explosion, more than 78 billion people that we have today. So we don't have the kind of food, the kind of resources, natural resources that to cater to this huge amounts of the population. So we will need to make more synthetic food, and I think less reliant on killing animals for that. So more artificial meat, but that's based on plants, which then again it's more healthy as well. So that's the future of food. In terms of we could go on and on, talk a lot about how the future will look like, but I'll give a condensed version here for the sake of time. So in the future of transportation, I think if you look at Elon Musk and Tesla and self-driving vehicles and Hyperloop, I think traveling will be a lot different in the future. We'll have a lot more self-driving vehicles. We will autonomous vehicles. We will be using that on a daily basis, and it will be cheaper to obtain one. We'll be using electricity more often and less reliant on coal or natural gas-based fuel. For example, we will have electric vehicles all over the place, even for like electric bike-powered vehicles. And I think public transportation systems will be the number one user of electricity-driven vehicles. So in terms of Hyperloop, we will be probably traveling from one place to another place, one country, one continent to another country in way faster than is possible today. And you talk about tourism and space tourism. That's really exciting. So I think we will be colonizing or living on other planets. Not using the word colonizing here, it's not very nice, but we'll be having maybe a second home in Mars or Venus, maybe discover new places in an undiscovered distant star. And I think space travel will be a lot more cheaper, a lot more accessible to the masses. All of these things are present here today, but it's only at the start, and not many people can afford it, right? So I think we'll discover homes and places in other planets beyond Earth. So that's travel and space tourism. And I think in terms of traveling and building structures, the way we live will not be in like buildings that we have today. I think we'll be more in IKEA kind of modular concept kind of homes, where we live in units that can be changing and restructured. So we can change our living room today, how it looks like, and we can make our kitchen morph into our bedroom, for example, if we want to go and cook and then go jump into bed kind of thing. So I think the way our homes are structured is going to be different. The facade of the home, the front of the homes, how it looks like, not like the everyday homes that we have. And I think lifts. I think this is possible right now. I remember reading somewhere that one company was testing this or making this already. We will not have lifts that move vertical. We'll have lifts that move horizontal as well. So you have, to get from one end of the building to another end of the building, we will have lifts that move in a horizontal format. So that's really cool. I think we'll be using a lot more, what do you call it, electromagnetism, yes, electromagnetism to move things about, right, to move lifts and all that. And I think in terms of construction and compound chemicals, we'll be discovering new chemicals, new compounds that have yet to be discovered today. For example, a titanium based mixed with an alloy of cadmium or nickel, for example. Things to make things more, to make composites more light, more durable, more flexible maybe. So yeah, we'll be discovering a lot more new materials that we'll be using. Also, in terms of the future of communication and maybe relationships, right? So it's important here to say that the essential, I mean, no matter what the future holds, the essentials of what we need as a human race will always be there: food, sleep, the need to be appreciated and loved, things like that. So, in terms of what do you call it, communication relationships, I think a lot more people will be single for longer. Yeah, and the way we communicate, or the way we have online dating, maybe would be a thing, a thing that's more common, less of the traditional way of making relationships. We may even have relationships where we may not even see someone physically for long periods of time. So it'll always just be virtual communication. And I think the need for humans to be for greater and efficient communication and for freedom will be the key driving factor of how we will be living and in the future, and how things will be like in the future. So in terms of the future of health, we will have, I think, less reliant on medicines, but more on prevention. Prevention better than cure. So we'll be wearing all these sensors, these bio watches and electronic sensors maybe placed in our, when at birth, maybe a little sensor placed in our arm or in our neck, on the back of the neck kind of thing, or a little chip in the brain or something that will tell us data, will feed us data. So a lot more reliant on bioanalytics, on data, and where we can then maybe prevent certain diseases. It will tell us, okay, this is going to happen soon in the next X number of years. And also these electronic sensors in our bodies or in our systems, or things to be wearables, digital wearables, gadgets, will tell us what food we are lacking, what nutrition we are lacking, what supplements we need to take. And we'll have computers in almost everything. So which means our homes, the fridge, will tell us what we need when it's out, and that we can buy something from the grocery and replenish stocks in the fridge, for example, in the kitchen. So in terms of hospitals and surgeries, I think less reliant on doctors performing surgeries per se, but more on robotic surgery, which is happening right now in certain hospitals, but this will now be more on a large scale base in the future. So doctors will now perform surgeries from their offices, and unless it's an extreme, really critical case, then they will do it themselves. But then more reliance on robotics as well. And I think a lot of jobs will change. The future of work will change. How we perceive, or how the kind of jobs that we have today, will be replaced by AI. Artificial intelligence will be replaced by robotic assistants, for example. We'll have a lot more virtual assistants. The next generation of Siri and Cortana, a lot more virtual stuff. We'll be working from home mostly, or maybe near home. We'll be living near work in that way. Gone are the days of traditional 9 to 5, or traditional workplace kind of thing. It'll be more based on productivity, the task that we do, rather than being in the workspace. So the future of work will change. There'll be more jobs that'll be created, more jobs that maybe are based on computer science, data, networking, security, computer engineering, software engineering, mechanical engineering, things like that. So things jobs that will be needed to engineer and create the products, things that we will use in the future. Also, in terms of what else have I not covered? And that's pretty much the future that we have. I mean, yeah, it's a very exciting time. It's a great time to be alive. Oh yeah, one final thing. I think in terms of the community, like Malaysia, for example, we live in a multicultural, pluralistic society. I think we'll see a lot more of that across the world. And you won't be identified by a certain race. You'll be identified, like for example, in Malaysia, you'll just be known as Malaysians. A lot more mixed marriages, maybe. Everyone looking very different from each other. So there's no one clear identity. So it'll just be very multicultural kind of community that we live in. And also in terms of languages, I think we'll be speaking more languages to each other. We'll be conversing we'll be switching between languages, as maybe we wear devices that will be able to understand and translate languages instantly on the spot. We'll be able to talk to each other from a different language as well. And there may be even a new language that will be created in the future, something that will be more of a short form based language, using all those LOLs and LMAO and all these kind of things. Maybe a version of that language. I think also as we develop things, we get a bit more lazy in the future. So we want things that are more convenient, so things like that. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much what I see in the future, how I think the future will be like, and how I think we'll be living in the future. Thank you.